Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Food Freedom Podcast. I am Coach Mary Roberts, and I am your host. And this is the place where we have honest conversations about our experience with food addiction, recovery, finding true freedom, and the cycle of compulsive eating, all things related to disordered eating. And today I want to dive into a pretty big question that comes up in conversations pretty frequently with my clients, because a lot of them are married to people who are, quote, normal eaters. And so today's episode is about, why do some people use food like a drug and others don't seem to struggle with it at all? If you've ever wondered why food feels like a battle for you and why other people can just they seem to be able to just eat anything they want, they eat without thinking about it. They're not obsessed. They don't think about it all the time like us. Then this is the episode for you. So grab a cup of coffee and let's talk about it. So first, let's talk about the spectrum of food addiction. I've talked before about how there's a scale like mild, moderate, severe, and we fall somewhere on there. But so let's start with the obvious. Not everyone has the same relationship with food. Some people eat when they're hungry, stop when they're full. They don't really think about food. Like my husband, who just doesn't care about food. Others, like us, have spent years, like decades, trapped in this cycle of obsession and shame and out of control eating. So what's the difference? Why do some people use food as a drug and others don't? The truth is that food addiction exists on this spectrum. So some people are what I call normal eaters. Food is just food to them. Then there's the emotional eaters who might overeat occasionally, but they can rein it in when they need to. They're like on the mild end of the spectrum. And then there's the straight up food addicts, like people like me and maybe like you, who lose control around certain foods and just feel powerless to stop. So let's talk about the science behind the food addiction. If we get into it, we can recognize that highly processed foods, especially those loaded with sugar, the refined carbs, the unhealthy fats, seed oils, all those things can hijack our brain's reward system. And for some people, these kinds of foods trigger dopamine surges. And that's the same way that drugs and alcohol, gambling, and sex does. And so the dopamine hit creates this cycle where we just crave more and more. Even when we don't want to keep going, it causes us to keep going. So here's where it gets interesting, though, because not everybody's brain responds in the same way. Some people are more sensitive to these dopamine spikes. Genetics play a huge role. Some of us are wired to be more prone to addiction. My mom, who also has her own food addiction and disordered relationship with food, when she was pregnant with me, she was very poor, and she has told me my entire life that when she was pregnant with me that she, quote, lived off of vanilla wafers and red Kool-Aid. So, I mean, the epigenetics there, what did that set me up for? I think we all know. Also things like childhood experiences, trauma, even our own gut microbiome can influence how food affects us. There's also emotional and psychological factors. So beyond biology, there's also the emotional side, which we all have said at one point or another, I'm an emotional eater. So there's a lot of us that have used food to cope with stress, loneliness, boredom, trauma. And if you grew up in a household where food was comfort or a celebration, or maybe it was even used as punishment, then it's not really surprising that we've developed this emotional attachment to it. Here's the key, though. Not everyone has the same emotional wiring around food. We all know people who they just seem to be wired differently. So some people actually had balanced relationships with food in their childhood. I mean, I think it's rare, but they're out there. Others developed strong coping skills that don't involve eating. That's rare too. Some just don't experience the same level of emotional or physical dependence. So, what can we do about it? If you're somebody that has been struggling with food addiction, here's the good news. I've said it before and I'll keep saying it. You're not broken. You're not alone. But breaking free is going to require a different approach than just eating in moderation. That's like a lazy prescription. Just everything in moderation. Or just eat meat. Okay, it's not as simple as eating in moderation or following, whatever's trendy and popular at the moment. It's much deeper than that. So here's some things that you can start doing today. First, acknowledge that food addiction is real. I think we already know that there's people out there who say it's not real, and we can say, oh, I'm a food addict, but maybe there's a part of you, maybe there's a part of your brain that doesn't really believe it's real and that it's something that you can overcome with some magic pill or something. It's not a lack of willpower, it's a brain and a body response. The second thing you can do today is identify your drug foods. And for a lot of us, certain foods, they are most definitely like a drug. And the best approach is going to be abstinence, not moderation. 3, develop new coping strategies. Find ways to deal with stress and emotions that don't involve food. Journaling, movement, exercise, deep breathing, connecting with others. Number 4, get yourself some support. Quit trying to do it alone when you don't have to. Whether it's a coach like me and my coaching program, my community, or another community, or a trusted friend, support is going to make all the difference for you. So if you've ever felt like you're wired differently when it comes to food, guess what? You are. You probably are. But that doesn't mean that you're doomed to stay stuck. I think a lot of people don't move forward because they really do believe that they've tried everything and that they're just doomed. I'm here to remind you, though, that recovery is possible and also that I'm here to help you. So if today's episode resonated with you at all, I'd love for you to share it with a friend who might need to hear it. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thanks for spending this time with me today. I will see you next time on Food Freedom. In the meantime, stay strong, stay food sober, and remember, you are not alone.